Some of the comments on my channel often sound a little something like this. Andrew, I tried to go to an Orthodox church, but I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel like I belong. I didn't fit in. It was too ethnic. And honestly, this is a sentiment I can relate with. Ethnically, I'm Egyptian, but nationally, I'm American. I was born in America, raised in America, I went to school in America, I got educated in America, I lived my entire life in America. I've barely ever been to Egypt. The few times I have gone to Egypt, people could instantly tell that I'm not from there because of my American accent and because of my broken Arabic. And the reason why you feel that way when you go to church is because sometimes it really is that way. I'm not going to try to make excuses for it or say that this doesn't happen or that churches are always perfect. This does happen. I remember 20 years ago when I'd go to church, things were way different. The vibe shift from then till now is drastic. And what has happened in the past 10 to 15 years is a lot of people started immigrating to the West from Orthodox countries, from Egypt, from Syria, India, Armenia, Eritrea, Ethiopia. And when these immigrants come to America, there are some stark differences between the culture from which they came from and American culture. And when this happens, and they go to church, and they finally find people at church who understand them and where they're coming from and have had similar life experiences, they cling to each other really tightly. It's like these little teeny bubbles of ethnic orthodoxy inside a sea of secular Americanism. And when you feel that's surrounded, you tighten up with each other. And to add to that, churches in America are rather small. If you were to go to Egypt and you were to attend a church in Egypt, chances are you won't recognize many people, if any people at all, at that service. But here, since the communities are so much smaller and more tight-knit, you are much more likely to recognize people at church. And when you recognize people at church and you've known each other for decades, the consequence of that is you start to know about the skeletons in everybody's closet. Let's say I have a friend, let's say his name is Michael. Michael is now an adult. But when Michael was a teenager, he might have done some sketchy things and he might have been some sketchy sort of ways. And I know about it because I was there. And so Michael's never going to let that down. We know about it, Michael. And it's going to be in the back of people's minds. And so Michael might feel judged. And on top of all of this, and I can only speak for Coptic culture, I can't speak for any of the other Orthodox churches, is that Coptic culture is quite a bit like Asian culture. In that you have a much easier life because you don't need to be paralyzed with so many choices of what you're going to do with your life. You really only have 4 options. Either you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an engineer, or you're a nobody. Those are your 4 options. So you don't really have to worry about picking. And because that's the case, oftentimes church communities can feel rather status sensitive, rather status conscious. It's natural, it's normal. This is the way that humans are in our sinful nature. And so when you put all of this together, little pockets of ethnic communities within the broader scope of American culture, small communities where people know each other and have known each other for a long time and come from a culture like Asian culture or Coptic culture, this is kind of the natural result. This is what ends up happening. And I'm not going to try to say it's otherwise. About a month ago, I was at church, and I came early. I was the first one there. And so I started praying the morning doxology in the front row. And as I was chanting the morning doxology, people started coming in, and they were standing in the second row. And I noticed this, so I look back at them and I say, "Hey, get up here, I need some help. My voice ain't that great." And so they come up to help me, but there's one guy who stays behind. The convert, the only convert that was back there. As if he felt my invitation didn't extend to him, it only extended to cradle Orthodox. And so I look at him and I say, "What are you doing back there? Get over here, get up here." And he smiles a little bit, and very quickly he comes up there and joins us. And it's those little invitations that really make all of the difference in how welcome we feel. But the really nice thing about Orthodoxy, unlike most of, or some of Catholicism, unlike most of Protestantism, is the whole service doesn't revolve around a guy standing there on the pulpit, on a stage, charismatic, emotional, bold. And it's not about his personality. When you go to an Orthodox divine liturgy, what you have is everyone is facing towards the east, including the priest, and everyone's in prayer, and we're praying the same exact divine liturgy that we've been praying for tens of centuries now, and it doesn't change. And so you don't have to go to church and feel like people are going to drag you into these social situations, or people are going to focus on you, is really the word I'm looking for. People aren't focused on you, because everyone's not even looking towards where you're coming from. If you're coming from the west, which is where the door is, everyone's looking the other direction and praying. And when that's the case, you could feel at ease, because it's not about you. It's not even about the priest. He's looking east too. He's looking east too. And so, since it never changes, and it's not about any of us at all, you can rest assured that you can just show up to church and pray the liturgy. And to end, I just want to say, if you do feel this way, like you don't feel welcome or you don't feel invited, a lot of that is valid. I get it. But that's not a good enough reason to not go to church. That's resistance that the devil puts in our way to try to stop us from receiving Eucharist and praying divine liturgy. And if you do feel this way, one thing that helps is to extend an invitation to the other people, because they might be shy and timid about you too. Remember, they feel isolated in their little bubble. And so invite them. Say, "Hey, would you like to have dinner? Hey, would you like to go out for a coffee? Hey, would you like to sit next to me?" And and they'll be so excited and glad to do it 9 times out of 10. And when everyone does this, what will ultimately happen is the problem goes away by itself.